All right, welcome to episode, I think, 8 of Rise and Hoop. Thank you for joining us. Exciting day. I guess in case you don't know, obviously we've streamed on YouTube, everyone, on every episode, but we're also now on podcast platforms. Ryan and I aren't smart enough to do our own one, so we piggybacked onto Give 'em Hell Brigham, which I do that Discord with them to Jeff and Garrett's podcast network. So whether it's podcasting service you're on, Apple, Spotify, whatever else it may be, we are on the Give 'em Hell Brigham podcast network. So you watch YouTube, watch there. We're on there, and like and subscribe because we're told that helps us. So appreciate it. But I fun day today, I would say, Ryan. I mean, I honestly, like, obviously there's the BYU game, and I suppose we'll talk about that. But I mean,
We'll get there.
yeah, I mean, outside of that, it wasn't that crazy of a day today. I mean, McNeese won, your McNeese Cowboys won, and then we're recording Monday night. Michigan squeaked one out against UCSD, so there's some good games, but as far as non-BYU games, it wasn't like insane. Not it wasn't like a dud, but it was just kind of like, oh, there's like some solid games on.
Pretty average. Yeah, I mean, we had Drake. Really, like the main upsets was just Drake over
Yeah,
Missouri,
Bennett
McNeese
Sturts.
over Purdue. Yeah, Bennett
Yeah,
Sturts. If that isn't a March Madness name, I don't know what is because
yeah,
it's beautiful.
yeah. You've been on
Yeah,
the
man.
McNeese Cowboys. You've been talking for multiple episodes now, and then former BYU assistant Heath Schroeder, who's the athletic director there, they
That's
won, and
right.
their coach Will Wade, who's like essentially acknowledging, yeah, I'm going to take the NC State job, and my players could come with me. And him and the school are embracing it. It's like, I guess you might as well talk about it, and if they could get some wins, get some money, why not? So
I mean, right? Yeah, I saw a tweet where someone was joking. He's like, he's being so transparent that he's probably like literally, yeah, like he's just like, well, yeah, if you play good in this tournament, like I'll probably bring you with me, you know? Like,
yeah,
and so it's so funny because it was the same, like, now that NIL is like wide open, Wild West, kind of whatever, more or less
hmm
whatever goes to some extent, right? But like
hmm
he was playing with that at LSU a couple years ago, and that's like what got him, fired there and put on probation. I think he got put on probation, they brought him back, and then they ended up firing him for
yeah,
messing with that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
I mean, he's had a couple years on maybe all the other coaches, so maybe he just knows how to handle it a little bit better. Now that it's like, yeah, he's in the
Yeah,
spotlight a
he's
little
like, I've
bit.
been doing this for years, so
Yeah,
it's
he's
like,
like, guys, yeah,
now it's
I
legal.
was doing this before it was cool
Yeah,
and legal, but like we'll ignore
yeah,
that part.
yeah. uh,
But my McNeese, I was hot on McNeese State more than anything. I've probably saw. I think I only ended up watching like their championship game, and
uh,
even then probably caught like half of it. But as soon as I saw their manager Amir with his giant boombox, that's kind of when I was like, this team's gonna win a March Madness game. Like 90% sure that's gonna happen. So I'm putting him near like the Sister Jean, you know,
yeah. Will Wade, Sister Jean, it's all the same.
yeah,
The
we're
boombox
putting
guy.
him. Yeah, we're putting him in like the Legends of March Madness already. At least I am.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't have them going. Oh, actually, I do. I actually picked them to beat Purdue in the round of 32. So we'll
Okay,
see.
they
We'll see
could.
how far that boombox can take them and the vibes and aura of their manager. So
Yeah, there could be a future BYU Cougar who's on Purdue right now that could enter the portal. So we will see what happens in a couple weeks.
a little scouting
Little,
report for us
little
there. We'll keep
tease.
an eye on
Yeah,
that one.
yeah. But I suppose we'll talk about the main course, which people come here for. So, I mean, what we
We
just
have to.
yeah, if we have to. But
I did have to fact check you too, Robbie. This is episode 7, actually. Just to,
7, okay,
yeah, just to keep. I thought it was 8 too, but I was like,
mm,
it's it's the Thursday after the
okay,
first day of March Madness.
okay. So
It's
we're one
okay.
episode away from getting baptized.
Yeah,
So,
we've almost reached the age of accountability.
yeah. So anything we say now, don't hold against us. Like, we're just next episode though. Then we could actually sin and say stuff that we actually mean. So
Jokes that you could only make on a BYU basketball
yeah,
podcast.
literally. Um,
Literally.
yeah. But man, today felt good. It's literally been since 2011. BYU beat Iona in 2012, but I mean that was a play-in game. But BYU hasn't won a round of 32 game since 2011 with Jimmer when we beat Wofford and then beat Gonzaga in the second round. But I mean, it's just so good because going into the day and like the whole week leading up to it, I think BYU fans, I think we all acknowledge that we've been having a good season under Kevin Young. We ended really well despite the loss to Houston. BYU's peaking at the right time. But it's just our battered fan syndrome going back decades and generations of our underwhelming performances in NCAA tournaments. Like, we knew we were a good team. We knew we could win, but I don't think any of us could fully buy into it. So just like the fact just that it happened, I think now all of a sudden people are like, oh, like everyone's going crazy. Like, oh, like we're just feeling so good about Wisconsin. And it's like BYU is playing really well, but it's just, I don't know. I think VCU was a tough matchup, but part of it was the matchup. But I think part of it was just we didn't want to put ourselves out there, especially just after another year Duquesne last year, which is totally a game BYU should have won. There was just like, oh, I think we could do it, but I just don't want to get my hopes up yet. And then the shackles were broken today, so it feels great.
Didn't. Yeah. Oh, it does feel amazing. I had like two voices in my head for the first like 2 minutes of the game. I just have to read through like the play-by-play here for like the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Igor Demon turnover.
I know that first.
VCU dunk assisted by Schluga. Trevin Nell brick three-pointer. Defensive rebound by VCU made three-pointer. And I was watching, so we're down 5-0 within the first like minute and a half. And I'm like, you know, like the gunshots are going off in the background. Like I have like the 1,000-yard stare. I'm just like, I'm fighting it though. I'm like, I know that this is not going to be Duquesne again.
Yeah.
And I know this isn't going to be the game that we just played, like Houston, where we're just going to like go cold for all that. But it was also like, it just looked, you're like, I have seen this way too many times, right?
Yeah.
And
like honestly, if you could have scripted like an armchair fan, like Cougar board hot take game, it's like Jaeger Demon turnover. And then Trevanel, people are like, oh, can never go in a big game, bricks a three. And so it's like literally all those BYU fans, like
the two hottest takes that like have some merit, but like they get overblown. But
it was like literally happened on
back-to-back.
BYU's first two plays and down 5-0 against a team with their defense and then their athleticism. So it's like,
And especially VCU, like the alley-oop dunk, like just, the lob dunk, and then just the made three-pointer. Like, you're just like, oh my gosh. Like,
yeah.
So there was like that brief moment there where, I was like, most years, I think I would have, like, early in the Duquesne game, I remember feeling like, yeah, we're going to lose. As much as I watched the whole game, I was still in it, like I'm believing, but like in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't think we're going to win this game. This one, I never felt that way. I mean, that was like the only time where it was like, I felt like it was more, I needed to just be patient, stay the course a little longer. And I felt like we're going to get through this. We're not going to buckle. This isn't going to happen again. But everything you were seeing reminded you of, the collapses or just the weak showings that we've had in big games, not just in the tournament, but in, other regular season games too. But we weathered, like you said, maybe like the worst possible scripted first two possessions or, back and forth. From there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess overall, I remember like when we previewed it last game, like two of the main keys going to this game were, VCU had a good defense and they could turn you over. So it's like one, BYU needs to limit turnovers. And then second, VCU shoots a lot of threes and they're really good in the offensive glass. So another key is like BYU needs to be strong in the offensive glass. And BYU did both of those things really well. Like the first half, they only had 4 turnovers. Like it was awesome. Like Yegor, like, we'll talk about him more. He had obviously had that turnover on the first possession, but didn't have a turnover the rest of the first half and had 11 points that first half. So BYU took super good care of the ball. I mean, only 4 turnovers in the first half against a team that really likes to turn you over. It was awesome. Ended with 12 turnovers. Had a few sloppy possessions in the second half, but 12 turnovers for a game versus a team like VCU, like that's awesome. And then the offensive glass, I did not think this is going to be a big Foose Traore game because Foose's games, the type of games he struggles most are teams that will double in the post. And VCU's identity is they like to crash the paint, cause chaos, protect the paint, force turnovers. But BYU took them out of their game plan. Like VCU was so concentrated on stopping the BYU three. Like BYU only made 7 threes this game. Like it was a concentrated effort for VCU to stop the three that BYU shot 28 free throws this game. BYU got to the paint, and then Keba and Foose both dominated. Like Foose had 13 points on 4 offensive rebounds and 9 total rebounds off the bench. Keba was a monster. His free throw shooting, he started 3 for 3, then has missed his next 5, but 9 points. And like I tweeted out, it looked like sometimes, like the last 2 months, look like he's playing like on a Nerf basketball hoop, just with like, literally, just how high he gets up. Just like, and so he had 9 points, 9 rebounds, 4 blocks, and BYU dominated VCU's front court, and Keba had 4 offensive rebounds. So that was really cool to see. Like VCU has good athletic, long front court players, and BYU just dominated the glass. So BYU had the recipe, like, hey, VCU likes to force turnovers. They like to be strong in the offensive glass, and BYU just did very good in the glass, limited turnovers. And with that, even though VCU made a lot of threes, it really wasn't competitive after the last like 30 minutes. Like the first 10 minutes, it was like VCU got up 19-17, but then after that, BYU went up 11 and a half. VCU made some spurts in the second half, but BYU shut down every single one. It was never really threatened in the second half. So that was really cool to see. BYU took away what VCU did well, and then people like Foose, Yegor obviously stepped up this game.
Yeah, I saw post game in the locker room. I think Kevin Young went through those exact. He went through. We were +9 on the boards, limited to 12 turnovers, and then we only put them on the line for 6 free throw attempts, as opposed to our 28. Right? We didn't shoot great, but we ended up making 19 of 28, but VCU only went 4 of 6. So that was what he said was their 3 keys. Like if they kind of distilled everything down and said, hey, here's what are the main things that we're going to focus on, keep them off the free throw line, beat them on the glass, and limit our turnovers. And yeah, I mean, you hit on all those, and that was what he broke down with the team right after, just saying, hey, this is what we keep it simple, keep it, focused on, hey, how are we going to beat this team? And I mean, yeah, it's cool looking at. I do not remember the last time I've seen such a free throw disparity. In
BYU's favor.
BYU. Yeah, exactly.
And not because it's a ref conspiracy, but just because of BYU's style of play.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this one, yeah, I mean, even the amount of attempts, obviously when you have that many free throw attempts, there's a lot of shot attempts that don't get counted. But we only took 54 shots. It's going to be a lot higher of like number of attempts that we really took. But, still took 23s. So you're still looking at another 34 twos. So plus all the other, and then all the attempts that we got fouled on. So, that's a much different mix than we've seen most of the season, where it's been a lot more, I think on the season, right, we're close to about 50-50 in terms of shot volume on 3s and 2s. So kind of cool. Yeah. Just seeing like we definitely played to what worked. Demon making his 3s in this game ended up, when you look at winning by 9, and he went 3 of 7 from 3, which he's not super reliable there. I mean, funny enough, it kind of ended up being, in my mind, I kind of thought that was a little bit of a difference maker there, of just something that we weren't necessarily banking on. I think we still could have won if he didn't make those shots. The game may have been a little closer, but that ended up giving us like that really good cushion with about 5-6 minutes left, where it was still well within double digits. VCU ended up making 3 pretty crazy 3-pointers or so, right, like down the last 2-3 minute stretch, when they were just chucking up shots, trying to get back into give them a shot, as they should. But still, I mean, that was something that's maybe one of the best games I've seen Yegor play this season, especially against good competition, that still made him uncomfortable at times, but he definitely found himself in his groove and in his bag after that first little hiccup at the beginning. I thought he was one of the difference makers in the game today for sure.
Yeah, because if I would tell you these stats, like if I would have told you VCU goes 15 of 38 from 3, BYU goes 7 of 20 from 3, and Jaeger only has 2 assists and has 4 turnovers. Like, wow, we got cooked. But but it's like those, like BYU did so many other things well. That's what's like last year's team, loved last year's team, but it really was a live by the three, die by the three. Like there wasn't really anything other than a fastball. But this year's team, like it hasn't been a live by the three, die by the three. Like BYU's had several games where they've had to win defensively. I think of those West Virginia games where that West Virginia game in Provo, BYU didn't make a single three in the first half, still won by over 20 points. Like there's games like that BYU hasn't got done very well at the three, and they've won other ways. And BYU did that this game. They got to the free throw line. They got in the paint. And their defense, like at VCU, especially in the second half, I think VCU made like 12 or 11 or 12 of those threes of their 15 in the second half. But BYU played a lot of zone this way. And I was kind of concerned because VCU has some good guards that are good isolation wise. And I remember we were talking about, it's like, I don't know how like Trevin's going to guard him, how Dawson's going to guard him. And those guys played combined 30 minutes, but he played a lot of zone to limit the dribble penetration. And VCU ended up taking some threes, making a lot of threes in the second half, but they're kind of empty calorie threes. Like BYU was like fine letting them have those. Like, hey, let's keep things in front of us. Mm-hmm. If they hit a couple,
they
so
weren't
be
high
with
quality
it.
shots. Yeah, well,
No.
they hit some tough threes.
Yeah, like BYU didn't want it to become like just a super physical battle, like not rack up fouls on both sides. And VCU only got to the line 6 times. It really took them out what they wanted to. And Moat Mag, I remember we talked about as an X factor. Max Shulga ended up scoring 12 points. He was 4 of 10, and he took 0 twos. All 10 of those shots were from three.
That's
so like he was
crazy.
like just BYU just did not let him get in the paint. Like when Mag was on him, just like had him just totally out of his game. You could tell like Shulga never faced someone like that the whole year. So that was awesome to see what Mag did. And Mag also had 3 offensive rebounds. So like he only scored 6 points, but his defense, which doesn't always show up, he had 5 rebounds, 3 in the offensive glass. Like just he's one of the big X factors for that game. So that was cool to see. But just how BYU won was encouraging to me. And Wisconsin's a totally different team than VCU, and there's totally different things you're going to have to focus on. But just that BYU was able to get to the foul line, that they're able to limit the offensive glass, what VCU does really well. That Yegor, like the first two threes he made, it kind of like took the lid off of the offense. Like BYU kind of had it's tough going. Yegor made the first 2 of the first threes, got really going, and once he started going, then Foose came in, did really well off the bench, and Richie finally got going a little bit. Like Richie, I mean, even Richie was only 1 of 6 from 3. He was BYU's leading scorer from 16 points, but all these things like you would think that BYU needs to do, like BYU needs to outshoot VCU, Richie needs to get going, Yegor needs to have a ton of assists, limit turnovers. Like none of those things happened, and BYU still comfortably won, which to me was because it's like BYU can do some of these things and do the things they normally do well, like make a bunch of threes. Richie knocks down 3 or 4. Yegor gets a lot more assists. It's like there's still more that this team could do. It's not like BYU played the perfect game and beat VCU. BYU played well, but they won it with like their B and C type like option and game plan.
Yeah. This game, even at halftime, the way the first half went, I mean, the entire game, though, I think felt a lot like that home win against West Virginia. Just felt very similar in terms of the style of play that we went after. Not exactly the same thing, but it felt like to me this was just another game, too, where you could tell, you just can see Kevin Young's basketball acumen like actively taking place and being executed on the court, which is cool. Kind of to your point, teams in the like last year's team, same, we didn't really have we didn't have other options, but we didn't really, I don't remember seeing a whole lot of different game planning to like switch things up. This is the time when when you're in March, you need to set your team up for like what is the highest probability of success, like what's the way that we can give ourselves the best chance to win this game, and you can kind of adapt to maybe not just lean on your strength specifically, which like this team is one of its strengths is shooting threes, but there's a lot of volatility with that, right? VCU also is kind of trying to limit those things, so you can kind of say, well, hey, let's not just like force ourselves into something that they know how to do. How can we switch things up? How can we make a game plan that is going to optimize our team to be put into a good situation? And I just felt that as a fan watching the game, just never feeling, like you said, after about 10 minutes into the first half, I really wasn't feeling very nervous. The whole second half I felt great. There was a couple little runs that VCU went on, but we did a great job kind of snuffing those out. But to
Yep.
me, that's to your point. When you look at the stat sheet, it's not like, well, we just had a lot of players playing extremely well. Guys played well, don't get me wrong, but it just felt like, for me, coming back to Kevin Young, with he's putting the right guys in the right places. He had a really good, like, I remember seeing Foose come in, I think 5 minutes into the game, and I was like, that seems weird. Like, I feel like Kev is playing pretty well, and then it turned out, Foose had a really good part to play in this game too. So he just kind of, it feels like he's really good with his rotations, substitution patterns. I mean, I think even in the NBA, he's talked about that was kind of like something that he really crafted and learned. So seeing that on display is really cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like he just gets teams a little bit off balance. And when you are subbing between Foose and Keta, I mean, their styles are so different. I think he's got to love just being able to like switch between those guys, where teams have to totally switch up their approach on both sides, like both defense and offense, in terms of what are we, how do we approach these two guys? But that was just kind of something I feel like I noticed throughout the game, was the team executed everything and the players largely played really well. But I just can't help but see the ways that Kevin Young puts the guys in a spot where they can succeed, even if it's not, kind of to your point, not just doing things that we're the best at. He's kind of finding those mismatches, just even like in the broad game plan for the team.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, just the game plan BYU has, like, game to game, is just like BYU knows what they do well, and like they execute what they do well, but they're also willing to adapt what other teams do well. So they don't focus so much on the other team, but they try to take away what the other team does and make them play left-handed, I guess, for like lack of a better term. So yeah, I mean, I guess, who would you consider like your MVP for this game? I think there was lots of good performances. Like, who would you give your MVP award to?
My MVP, it's
Yeah.
tough. I think I got to give it to Foose for me. I think just because he just created some off balance. It just felt like he came in and was just kind of created a good amount of chaos for VCU, and just kind of gave us a good lift to help stabilize us early in the first half. And then just kind of consistently would come in, make some good shots. He made most of his free throws. He had a really great rebounding game too. Felt like he was in there on both sides of the glass, like misses from three. He was like clawing those down. And then just on defense, able to get some there too. So maybe not like, I want to maybe say Yegor, just because I do feel like he played really well, but I feel like maybe the timing with everything, I'll go with Foose. I think it was, and I also just like, since the way that he's leaned into his role off the bench and everything, just he's always ready to go, and it's cool seeing him end up being one of those really important X factors in a game, when, to our last episode, not something we necessarily thought was going to maybe fit to his strengths. So I think on top of that, it kind of was cool just seeing him be so impactful. Who do you got?
Yeah, I think Foose is one of the few. I mean, Yegor, I want to say Yegor. I mean, I don't think that's a wrong answer. I'm going to go with Keba, just the game he had, just how he impacted the glass and defense. I mean, you like, hopefully the next step last year, even if you can shoot in the 60s from the free throw line, I mean, that's just a few more points, and it's just like, that's one additional thing he could do. But just with what he did, he had 4 blocks, 9 rebounds, 5 of them offensive. So just what he did to take away VCU on the glass, what he did protecting the paint. I mean, and it's just the ferocity and like the physicality of like the rebounds he would have, and the blocks he would have. So I'd go with Keba for him. Again, you can make a case for Yegor. I think Foose is a great one. Richie it was like 1 of 6 from 3, was BYU's leading scorer. Even Mawat Mag with defense was the X factor. But I think I'll go with that. It was an exciting game. And hopefully the expectation becomes pretty soon here that we're not holding our breath and like have the worst thoughts going into the first round tournament. I'm hoping that it becomes like we expect to win in most years. But this one feels good. Like, even if BYU loses to Wisconsin, right now BYU's about a point and a half underdog to Wisconsin. Like, this was a successful year, no doubt. Kevin Wong. Like, no matter what happens next game, like, this was a successful season for BYU, and everything just is top of gravy. And everyone now, it's just like, now a win would it would become a historic season, and any more wins after that. So now it's a great season. Now anything else is gravy. Plus, you're getting like in the historic category for BYU basketball.
I mean, yeah, getting to a Sweet 16. I mean, that's I haven't done it in over a decade, and I mean, yeah, it would be amazing if we did that. The fact that Kevin Young's done this in his first season, I think I saw that he's the fastest BYU coach to 25 wins. So meaning no other BYU coach has gotten 25 wins in their initial season. And he's doing it in the hardest conference that we've ever been, which is really cool. But yeah, I mean, just him, it really is impressive just seeing what he's turned this season into, especially when, yeah, I mean, even just right when we started doing this podcast, we had just beaten Kansas. And that was awesome, like big blowout win, but BYU was by no means a lock for March Madness. Wasn't like we were kind of teetering, and it was, I think we felt like, yeah, we should be right around there. I think we can make the tournament. But we weren't talking about single digit seed, 6 seed, getting like favorable placement, right, in terms of where we play, lots of things like that. So, but I'm with you. Yeah. I mean, at this point, I'm extremely fulfilled. I want more, but like, that's what's crazy too about like when you put the tournament into perspective is 6 seed, awesome, right? Like that's a really high seed. Guess what? If you win one game and now you're the underdog, right? Like it's literally that quick how you go from 64 teams down to 32, and it's like you go from being a 5 seed or 6 seed, gap on who you're playing, and to now like, well, now you're playing
a top 15 team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like you're still top, as a 6 seed, you're in the top 25, 24 teams. But yeah, you're playing someone that's, twice ahead of where you are in the total landscape of college basketball. So I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, obviously, even just looking, when you mentioned Keba, every time I see him play and how he's playing, I just am imagining him next year as a senior with Xavier Stanton and with AJ, and then like all the rest of the team that's coming back. But I'm like, our front court next year is spooky. Like I'm just like, it's so exciting. Like seeing the way that he plays, the intensity he brings. Like you said, yeah, if he could just notch up a little bit on the free throw line, which I feel like is very doable for him. He doesn't have a whole lot of other visible cracks for his position, honestly, especially how he's played as of late. So. But yeah, man, already an awesome season, and I feel like meeting and exceeding expectations, I think, for me at this point. And yeah, it's exciting to see just getting another game like in the tournament, win or lose, kind of the same like my mentality going into the Big 12 tournament, just getting to play Houston. If we won, cool. If we didn't, no big deal. Obviously, still would be wanting the team to win, feel like we can win, feel confident that the team can win. Yeah. But just getting another game of this caliber under their belt is huge for the Richies and the Kebas and, the other guys that are going to come back next year. Just to get to really, elevate. You're not going and losing to Duquesne and going, well, okay, this is what I'm learning from is I'm learning, how much it sucks to lose to an AQ bid stealer in the first round as opposed to, okay, we got a win under a belt and now we're going to go up against another team that's even better than us in the tournament. So,
yeah. So I guess speaking of Wisconsin, tip times just dropped. It's I guess people that listen to this Friday are already going to know, but BYU tips off 7:45 Eastern time. So they're prime time CBS on that, which is kind of cool. There's only 3 CBS games that day. BYU's one of the 3, and they're the one CBS prime time. So networks putting BYU Wisconsin on around the same time as Auburn Creighton. So it's kind of interesting. BYU Wisconsin got the CBS time slot over Auburn Creighton at essentially the same time, and Gonzaga Houston over the same time. They gave it to BYU Wisconsin. So CBS is banking on a good game. They want to see Kevin Young. They want to see Wisconsin. I guess some of my initial thoughts on Wisconsin. So they beat 14 seed Montana 85-66 in the first game. Like, it was never really in doubt, but Montana did get within 4 points of the second half. Like, gave them a pretty decent game, but Wisconsin eventually just kind of chipped away in the second half, and again ultimately won by 19 points. We mentioned when we kind of looked ahead to BYU's section of the bracket, like, our take was VCU style-wise is a tougher matchup for BYU, but Wisconsin's a better team, and even though their style maybe isn't as hard for BYU, it's going to be a harder game, and it will be. Wisconsin, they're ranked, they're top 15 in the AP poll, top 15 in all the main metrics, 13 in KenPom, 15 in net. And the thing that sticks out, they're very good offensive team. Like, their top player is guard John Tonje, 6'5" guard, first team All Big Ten. He was one of two Big Ten players that was unanimous first team All Selection. So Braden Smith was the Big Ten Player of the Year. John Tonje was right behind him, almost was Big Ten Player of the Year. He's a sixth-year senior, averages 20 points, and he's probably the best guard BYU's played all year. Like, I think the three best scoring guards BYU's seen this year was VJ Edgecombe, who's going to be a top 5 pick, and he's going to be the best NBA player that BYU has seen this year, but he was a little up and down. He was a freshman. Mm-hmm. Caleb Love had 2 really good games against BYU, but he's a little hot and cold. But I think John Tonje, he's better than any guard BYU's seen this year, just scoring wise. He scores in so many different ways. He averages about 20. He shoots 39% from 3. He averages 6.5 free throws a game. So he shoots from 3, shoots about 6 threes a game, gets to the free throw line, shoots 80% from the foul line. He's very difficult to guard. So that would be first and foremost. Like, I'd imagine Mag will be on Tonje, which really excited to be that way. Like, and it's just one of those classic, when you face one of those really good scorers, like, you're not going to stop them. You just want to make it difficult for them. You want to make them a volume shooter, limit their efficiency. So there'll be switches and stuff. It's not like Mag's going to be glued on him the whole game, but I would imagine he's going to get the main assignment. Other things, when I look at Wisconsin, like, they start 2 7-footers. So they start a 7-footer and a 6'11" in the front court. What's different than any of the teams BYU play, like, both of those guys could shoot threes. So, like, all 5 players in Wisconsin, they could shoot threes. Like, BYU hasn't seen a team like that in the Big 12, where you have 5 legitimate 3-point shooting threats. Like, they could post up inside, but they make about 1 3 a game. Like, they're big guys. Like, they shoot multiple a game. They both shoot right around 40%. So very difficult offense to guard. Like, BYU ranks 11th in KenPom offensive efficiency. Wisconsin is 13th in KenPom offensive efficiency. And both of these teams do it. They shoot a lot of threes. BYU shoots the most threes in the Big 12. Wisconsin shoots the most threes in the Big 10. So it's going to be, I expect it to be a high scoring game. Lots of threes. Wisconsin, their starters, they get most of their points. They have a couple guys on the bench. Like, they play about 8-9 guys, but their starters account for over 60% of their points. So they're a lot more scoring dependent on their starters than BYU is. Defensively, Wisconsin's total opposite of VCU. Like, KenPom defense efficiency, Wisconsin's actually slightly better rating than VCU, but they do it in different ways. So their turnover percentage, they don't turn teams over. They're one of the lowest in the NCAA in terms of turning teams over. It's not part of their game, but they're still solid defensively. Like, the teams don't shoot great against them. Teams have had success against them shooting the 3, so that could be something to watch here. So that's what I mean stylistically. VCU is a harder match. Like, VCU is really physical, athletic. Wisconsin's not quite as athletic. Their bigs are more skilled, not just quite as athletic as VCU's and other teams. And they don't turn you over. So BYU could have some success against that. Wisconsin, they don't get a ton of offensive boards, but again, they make a ton of shots. And then free throw percentage, I was looking, they're the best free throw shooting team in the country. They shoot 83%, which is like the highest free throw percentage for any team in 3 years. Their 6 top scorers all shoot at least 79% from the foul line. So if a game gets close, if BYU's down late and need a foul, it's pretty much over. Wisconsin's going to make their free throws. So that's the high level scouting report. John Tonje and his backcourt mate, Blackwell. I can't remember his first name. We need to look it up. Like I have ESPN right here. John Blackwell. So the John backcourt. He was Big Ten All-Over mention. He averages 15 and a half a game. So those are the 2 players that averaged double figures. So super good backcourt. They don't really have a true point guard. They have some, like they start 6'4", 6'4", 6'5" in the backcourt, and they're 2 7-footers. So they have some length there. But yeah, really good backcourt. Arguably the best backcourt BYU's seen this year. John Tonje is really tough. Going to be really hard to defend. Defensively, they're sound defensively, but they don't turn you over. So BYU could have a lot of possessions. It'll just matter of getting that efficiency up. So that's some of my high level thoughts around Wisconsin. Like I expect a game in the 80s.
Definitely. Yeah, I was checking the over under is 154 and a half. So yeah, I mean that's putting it into the high 70s. Seems a little low. Yeah, cuz I would assume that this thing could more from our experience watching BYU, how we've played against Arizona, Iowa State, how those games have been very high scoring. Just the way that you described their defensive approach and style feels like something where we could score a lot. Mm-hmm. How do you see kind of how, sometimes BYU's looking for fast flowing offense, trying to take advantage of that? When it's not there, then we kind of move into more of a half court set, which kind of sounds that's more of what Wisconsin's defense is like. Do you feel like there's an opening there where like we can have success in running some of that fast tempo off of misses and makes? Or what do you kind of think with that?
Yeah, Wisconsin, they don't super slog. Like they're not super like I was looking at their tempo. They're above average in tempo, so like they'll push a little bit. Like they're not like gonna just sprint on everything, but they'll push the tempo sometimes. Like the thing I'm most curious is like the front court matchup of this game. Like Wisconsin with their 2 7-footers, like they're not statues. Like they can guard it a little bit in space, but they're not as athletic, honestly, as most of the front courts BYU has seen. Like not to say they're bad. They just have different strengths. They're skilled. They could shoot the ball. They're solid in the defensive glass. So I think Kiba Keita, he'll be the difference between BYU. If he could prove to be like the biggest matchup problem in this game. Like I go back to the Kansas game against Hunter Dickinson. Hunter Dickinson could do absolutely nothing in the game against the pick and roll. Like BYU just put him just mercilessly went pick and roll with Yegor and Keba Keita, and Keba just was in space and Hunter Dickinson couldn't keep up at all. And these bigs for Wisconsin, they're more mobile than Dickinson. Like Dickinson is not mobile at all. He's 7'2", but so they have better movement. But and this is a little stereotypical. I was looking at some of the bigs in the Big Ten. Like I don't think there's any big in the Big Ten that's athletic as Keba. There's not many. You can count on one or two hands how many people are more athletic than Keba. Like some teams, like Danny Wolf is a big man from Michigan. He's got some athleticism, but none of these guys could just have the athleticism and the vertical that Keba has. So when it gets in the half court, BYU's they're gonna put shooters on the outside. Excuse me, and then they're gonna put Yegor and Keba in pick and roll. And BYU's had really good success against maybe not the most athletic big, so that would be one thing to watch. Then I'm curious how Boskovic actually gets some minutes this game, because I think Foose should get some one-on-one matchups in the post, and Foose one-on-one, I'm confident he could score against like anyone in the country. Like when he gets one-on-one, even though he's only 6'6", he'll be getting about 5 or 6 inches whoever's guarding him. I still am confident he could score with his strength and with his footwork. But defensively, like if he has to guard in the perimeter, it's like how much does BYU put him out there? So maybe that's where Boskovic gets some minutes, maybe at the 4, even the 5, a little bit this game, just to stretch the defense, and he's just a little more comfortable guarding on the perimeter. So I think Keba, BYU's going to run him as much as he can this game, because he has, with his athletic advantage, could give BYU some advantage, some just mismatches this game, and I'm curious how BYU Foose is going to get some minutes because he could score, but I'm curious. I think Boscovich will also carve out a little niche in this game, especially if Wisconsin's both their fours and their five, their 7-footers start knocking down some shots. And then the other X factor, like Moat Mag, how much can he slow down Tonje? Like Mag doesn't need to do anything offensive. Anything you get from him is gravy. But if you can just make things difficult for Tonje, like that is BYU's recipe. Like take advantage of Yegor and Caba on the pick and roll, have Tonje slow down, have Mag slow down Tonje, and then that's simply just in 2 steps, and take a lot more things than that. Is how BYU's path to winning this game.
Yeah, I pulled up Foose, kind of thinking of like what teams like Utah, right? Kind of they've got some pretty tall players. Lovering is like 7'1", and I'm blanking on. They have another.
Yeah, Ezra. Asar. Their other.
Asar. Yeah,
he had a good game against BYU.
He had a real good game against us when we lost there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Foose had 16 on really high efficiency when we lost at Utah. He didn't play as much in the home win against Utah, or he didn't have as much offensive success. He just didn't play as much in that game. But yeah, I mean, to your point, it's easy to think, Foose being a little shorter, like, oh, you hear 7 foot, you kind of go, ooh, like, yeah, is he gonna be a non-factor in that game? I'm with you. I think he'll still be in there, but it does more the 3-point shooting is what I think would be more of what could, put him into a more difficult situation. I wouldn't be surprised, just as you were saying that, maybe we're seeing Yegor on maybe switching, if Foose is on the court with Yegor, maybe Yegor's kind of getting out to help just because he is a bit longer and taller, even though he's a guard. Maybe doing something like that. I think we've seen that in the past where there's times where they'll actually try to put Yegor right onto one of the 4 or the 5 just to help him. He's a little bit more, has better length. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, it sounds like an interesting matchup. I could see it being a lot of chess moves that Kevin Young will be trying to make throughout the game, finding what works, because it sounds like there's definitely, like you mentioned with the pick and roll, definitely something to try to recreate. And then Mag has definitely been somebody that we've just leaned on, I think, a lot in a lot of these games. And he's the unsung hero. He was in this game against VCU, and he's been in most of the wins, I think, that we've had in this recent stretch where he just makes life really hell. You'll pretty much always tweet out that, he's got the best player in a torture chamber, just making their life miserable.
It's a every game tweet now. He just like locks down their best player.
He just does it. You can bank on it. He's definitely for me, like just one of those one time, those players that come to BYU and are only there for a year. I can't think of one as of late, like that I'll actually like have actually remember, actually be like, man, he was so impactful.
I think he's probably the second best grad transfer after Jake Toulson. I think Jake Toulson's probably number 1, and I think Mag's probably number 2. And you had Matt Harms for a year.
Cool.
Was like defensive player of the year, WCC, but Mag's been more WCC, impactful. I would say, yeah. I would put Mag number 2 behind Jake Toulson, just off the cuff, for like impactful grad transfers that BYU's had. Just those 1-year, 5th-year guys. Yeah,
just impactful. Yeah, and just fun to like. I mean, it's awesome watching him defend. When you're as good at basketball as I am, I take a lot of pride watching guys play defense, because that's what I have to do when I'm playing, because that's about the only spot I can try to bring some real value to the court.
Yeah,
so I will find myself watching him, and glue guy.
You're a glue guy.
Glue guy for pickup games. That's my that's my calling card right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it'll be a fun game. I'm with you, and I think I see it in the 80s, and I might even say it gets into the 90s. I'll probably say 80s, just because the tournament games you could see in the VCU game, the refs were letting things go a little bit. Is it the same ref crew for like Denver? Do they
I don't know.
Rotate a few different crews? Yeah, if you're curious if you knew, but they probably have a couple there, because there is multiple games happening, throughout the day and over the weekend. But just the little bit that I did get to watch today, it's just like the NBA, right? Where they let the guys play a little bit harder. I don't feel like they let things go necessarily. I think they just raise the bar for what actually merits, calling something a foul, sending someone to the line. They're trying to let guys battle it out a little bit more. So I
Yeah.
could see that limiting the upside on the points a little bit just because of how it'll probably be refereed. But just how you described, like, their offensive approach, it's strength on strength, which I think is cool. And yeah, I mean, I'd love to see a game that's kind of like the ones that we've seen BYU win as of late, that are just offensive battles, fun to watch. That's my gut telling me it'll be
Yeah.
something like that, probably
It
within
could be an
a few
Arizona
points.
type game that was a 96-95. Just like
That'd be
offense,
awesome.
just the offense is just so much more than defense. It could be that type of game, which would be fun. I talked about some like if I go to like a potential deep X factor. I'm curious. Like I'm not really banking anything from Cannon Catchings this tournament, but I think he could be a deep X factor. Just he could cause mismatches when BYU's on offense. Like if Wisconsin has those two 7-footers, like the 6'11", 7-foot guy. I think, let me get their names. I think it's Crowell and Winter. Yeah, Nolan Winter is the 7-footer. Stephen Crowell's 6'11" guy that they start. I mean, they're not going to be. They can move a little bit, but BYU wants to get a mismatch. Like they put Cannon Catchings at the 4 and play some mag sometimes, like for 10 to 12 minutes. They could set him screens one on the perimeter, like, and have one of those Wisconsin 7-footers chase him around screens. And that's, you could open up a few big shots for Cannon Catching. So he's my deep X factor for those reasons. If BYU, maybe he'll give up some defensively if they want to post him up a little bit, but that's one thing. Kevin Young, I'm curious if he wants to get in his deep bag of tricks a little bit. If he puts Cannon Catchings more at the 4 when Wisconsin has those two 7-footers on, just to try to maybe get some mismatches, bring him on some pin down screens, give him other action on offense to have those guys chase him. That's one thing I'm curious to see.
Yeah.
But I
I
guess,
mean, he threw him out there today. I
yeah,
think he got like 4 or 5 minutes, which, I
yeah,
mean, it's
he
a
got his feet
tournament
wet.
game. Like, that's no
Yeah,
joke, right? Like, if
no,
the coach is putting you out there, that means that there's some semblance of game plan that was like, hey, we want to try and see what can happen here. And I mean, he hasn't
yeah,
played in like, what, 3 weeks now or something. And so I didn't
yeah.
think he was bad when he was out there. I think it
No,
was
he had
just,
4 minutes and didn't accrue any stats except one foul. So I mean,
yeah,
he didn't do anything bad. Like
yeah,
it's get his feet wet, get his like. I mean, he's a freshman, hasn't played in a while, playing in his first tournament game. Get at least some of those jitters out, and
get him
hopefully
out there
second
for a
game
second.
settle him in a little bit. Maybe he gives you a 10-minute spark off of the bench, knocks down a couple threes.
He's done it. He's had like two. There's the game
Yeah,
that he didn't miss against Baylor, and then
yeah,
what was the other one where he ended up hitting like 3 or 4 threes?
yeah. I'm trying to think.
Was it Iowa State?
So
No, was it?
I'm
Maybe
pulling up
he
his
was
game
it
log right now.
Arizona
Against
at home
Arizona, at Arizona, he scored
or at
14. He
Arizona.
made
Yeah,
4 threes at Arizona. At West Virginia, he had 11 points. So honestly, this year, like he's had games. He's just like you don't hear anything from 4 games, and then boom, he pops off. Boom, 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 cans a few threes. Like he
yep.
had three. Like those are the three Big 12 games. Like Baylor had 23 points. Didn't really do anything before. Then he had like three nondescript games against West Virginia that at the road win, which kicked off the winning streak, had 11 points. Then had two bagels, and then at Arizona hit 4 threes, scored 14 points. He hasn't scored since the Arizona game
Yeah,
because Arizona State played 10 minutes, and they got hurt. West Virginia
West
hasn't really
Virginia.
played since. So he could
I
like
mean,
be a
that's
deep cut, and like he's done that this year. It's like you get nothing from him. It's not like he needs to like ease into it. Like he's got the skill, and he could just go out there and boom boom. So
yep.
it's like again, I'm not counting on him. BYU's gonna have a short leash with him, but if he could give you 8 to 12 minutes, knock down a couple threes, it could that could be like not the reason BYU wins, but it could be an X factor that one of the reasons BYU is able to pull it out.
He's like literally like in 2K, like the microwave metal or whatever. That's just like it's like if he's
That's a
hot,
good one.
he's hot. Like
Yeah,
he will.
yeah,
Well, and Kevin Young, he like literally. I'm glad you actually brought him up because Kevin Young's talked literally about him, and I feel like Kevin Young in his press, he's like his BS meter is like 0. I don't feel like he ever like
No.
tries to like just sugarcoat anything, because he's even kind of like, even like catchings, he's said like, I've had him on a tight leash. He's been
Yeah.
resilient. He kind of just shoots straight with everything, and
Yeah.
he said that about catching. He said when he's available, he gives us an extra level that we can get to. And I think the way that breaking, when we're going through those moments, right, giving you 16 points in a game at Arizona where you win by 1, that's literally game changing. Like that's
Yeah. BYU wouldn't have won without Cannon.
yeah, like you're gonna bank on somebody. You're gonna bank on those points. Sure, someone else can get those shots up, but like he was pretty efficient. Same with that Baylor game. I mean, he was unconscious. Didn't end up playing in overtime just due to coaching decision. Ended up working out. I remember kind of being like, "This, I don't know if this is a good move or not." Kevin was vindicated and all that, and I take back any any questioning of any moves that he's made, but. I mean that he literally has shown like you said, he might go out for a few minutes and put up a bagel, put up a 0, but it's a pretty good gamble when you're like, hey, I'll put him out for 5 minutes. He might get me 10 points, he might get me nothing, but like we can see it'll give us like, you use maybe 2-3 shots on him while he's out there. If he makes one, like generally speaking, he's not just making like one shot. He usually, that's where I'm getting the microwave from. It's like if he makes some shots, he's gonna get something going. So it's kind of I feel like it's a low risk, high return possibility there, where get him out there, see if he can do something. If he can't, like he did today, nothing happens. You just don't see him the rest of the game. But if he gets some shots, he generally is gonna. I feel like we do end up seeing him back out, and he tends to like knock down a couple good shots for us throughout the game. So, yeah, that's a deep bag, but I wouldn't be surprised if we at least see him out there for a couple minutes, because I feel like that might be kind of the strategy. Is if he's healthy, is it a game for catchings? If it is, great. If not, hey, no worries. He's out there for a few minutes, and we go forward with the normal game plan.
Yeah. What's your prediction for this game?
I'm gonna go 95-90. I'll go 85-90 BYU.
Wow. I'll go 136. I'm just kidding. In regulation.
Yeah, that's what we should be projecting, is double overtime.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe CBS got the script. That's why they've got this game on CBS primetime, because like they leaked the script. They're like, whoa, 110 to 111 triple overtime.
Yeah, let's CBS. Wisconsin's really good. Like, they're one of the 3 best offenses BYU played this year. I'm going to predict BYU 87, Wisconsin. No, I'll go BYU 85, Wisconsin 83. I think some of the main differences, I think Kaba's able to provide some mismatches on offense, gives Wisconsin some troubles in the pick and roll. I think Mag makes just enough important defensive plays on Tonje. And I think Catchings makes a couple big threes in big moments to put BYU over the top, and BYU's other players, Richie, Jaeger, down and do their things, and BYU goes to the Sweet 16.
Oof, I have chills, goosebumps. I love it.
Let's go.
Yeah, man, it would be awesome getting to the Sweet 16. It's right there, and that's the. I feel like the team will be playing with house money too at this point, because you got the jitters out. Yeah.
Another thing we have going in our favor. So my sister-in-law is getting her endowment for herself at 4:00 Pacific time on Saturday. The BYU game starts at 4:45. So I'll be in the temple for the first half of the game. So BYU's got to win if I'm in the temple for the first half.
So bet BYU money line is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone listening.
Yeah. So the BYU game starts 30 minutes after the Texas A&M Purdue game. I'm hoping that goes to like triple overtime, because I won't be checking my phone in the temple. I won't be checking the score, but at least I'll be able to watch the second half, and we'll see depending on how long the game goes. So if I'm in the temple for some of it, it's like, come on, like we got to win.
Yeah. We can only hope.
Yeah.
I love it.
Hopefully,
Here's a-
I don't know how much I'll be feeling the spirit at the temple since the spirit will be watching the game at that same time.
yeah, he might be a
So,
little preoccupied.
yeah. So hopefully,
He's like, hey, sorry, Robbie. Like,
yeah,
well, maybe if you don't feel the spirit, that actually is a good indication. Like you'd be like, oh, he's really invested in the game. If you do, it's like it might be like he was like, ooh, this is a bad. Like,
yeah. I'm
okay,
sure the time.
to work.
Yeah. We better stop over ahead.
Yeah, we'll cut it before.
Yeah.
Before
The
we
good
get
thing
to,
this is why this is our 7th episode because we're not accountable for anything. So we're not
after
our next episode. Yeah,
is
start the
next
8th episode.
when it counts, or is it like
I mean, it'll be our 8th episode. Or is it like
the 8th episode and then the 9th episode
Yeah.
is when?
It's like because Joseph Smith was in his 15th year when he had the first vision, but he's only 14 years old. So I'll give it that. It's like it's our 8th.
like-
so
We're in our 8th episode, but like we haven't finished.
Yeah.
We'll finish at the end of the 8th episode. We'll have had completed 8 episodes.
yeah.
So I think we still get the next episode as like we get Grace there and
Yeah. So the Elite 8 preview episode. That's when we'll start.
episode
having
8. Ooh, it's almost too perfect. I mean,
Yeah. Episode 8 would be. Yeah. I mean, all right.
the Elite 8 episode 8
Yeah.
preview.
Yeah.
Flip that around, but
Yeah.
all right.
Cool. Rise and
Rise and
hoop.
hoop.